Hello everyone, good day to all of you. I hope you're all doing well. I'm back with a 2000 round review of the PSA AK-101. This is the same one that I have been reviewing, just I changed the furniture because I have some sentimental value to this specific furniture set, and I found it pretty much in the back of my storage bin after pretty much 14 years. So just wanted to pop it on here and just use it a bit more. But aside from that, yeah, nothing else has changed on the rifle. So thus far, I have done a first impressions review of this, a 500-ish round review when my firing pin broke, 1000 round review, and of course, here we are now with the 2000. So I will kind of hit all of the high points, but if you want the full detail on how this has been going thus far, then I would highly recommend you go back and check those other reviews. But so far, I will say that from 1000 rounds to 2000 rounds, I've been a little bit surprised in a good way that this hasn't been too bad, and actually in some ways this is kind of broken in. But on the other hand, there are some new issues that have popped up, and an old issue regarding the lack of accuracy. Actually, this is an extremely inaccurate rifle. I got a bore scope finally, and I do have some insight into why that might be happening. So we'll look at that later, but getting started. So first off, I actually want to go back to the furniture change really quick, because one interesting point on this is I was originally using an AK-9 handguard, and in some of the footage I'll be putting up just because, you know, make it a bit interesting, and just so you can see I actually was shooting this, you know. I'll just put up a bunch of the practice footage. So at the start, you'll see that AK-9 handguard. Note that I did not have a cleaning rod attached. The reason for that is that just the fitment of that AK-9 handguard on this rifle was pretty poor, and I could not make a cleaning rod fit. However, if you look right here, of course, I actually have one on here now. So the wooden handguard fits a little better. It just kind of completes that AK look. I don't really like using the AK cleaning rods for actually cleaning, but it is there, and yeah, I just wanted to note that that at least does fit now. Moving on from there, one of the big issues that I've been complaining about in pretty much every one of my reviews is that I'm seeing just crazy amounts of brass fragments just being deposited mostly in the chamber, but you know, it's just getting everywhere in the receiver. And that is the most surprising change, that has actually gone away completely. So I'll put up some footage of just prior to me cleaning this, because right before the review I did really deep clean on this, just so I can do some gauging that I want to show you as well a bit later. So right now this is just totally spotless, but even before that I had about 300 or 400-ish rounds between that footage and when I last cleaned it, and there's just no brass fragments. Comparing that to when I first got this rifle, you'd open it up after a mag and look in the receiver and there would just be that brass everywhere. So it has actually improved in that regard, which is impressive. One weird issue I started noticing approximately around round 1500 is every so often, not on every shot, I'll actually start smelling gas, almost as if I'm firing with a suppressor, which is usually indicative of primers being popped. However, I have been picking up some of my fired brass, and I'm not seeing any sign of any primers being popped thus far. So I don't know exactly what's going on there. I just wanted to note it we'll just see how it progresses. On the same note of that, another thing I wanted to touch on was the headspace. So I believe on my 1000 round review I did say that it was holding headspace just fine. And, funny enough, pretty much right after I did that video, at around, I want to say 1200 or 1300, started to slip a little bit on a no-go gauge. So it's still safe to shoot. Obviously I'm not going to have a Darwin award here, not worth it, but I'm going to show you. I actually have all right, that took me a second to fish out of my pocket, but finally did get it. So of course you can see just a regular 5.56 no-go gauge, nothing special about it. So just going to drop this into the chamber right here, and I'll actually do this up on the camera so you can see what I'm doing here. So of course, just dropping this into the chamber. There we go. So a no-go gauge should, well, it already started to push forward a bit, but it should not slip forward at all. So you can see I'm getting about a third of the way closing on that no-go gauge. Like I said, obviously you don't want it to go at all. So like I said, it's still safe to shoot. If it starts to take a field gauge, that's when it's completely unsafe. You don't want to manufacture to the specs of accepting a no-go gauge, but it's just something to watch, especially in an AK, as it wears a lot. Next up on the wear, let's actually look at the internals here. So an issue that's been plaguing the PSA AKs for pretty much their entire existence, as far as I'm aware, is just really premature wear. And I'm still seeing a lot of that on here. So starting with the bolt carrier group, and I will put up some footage of the front trunnion and some of the receiver in general, just to show the wear there. Most of the wear where I'm seeing a pretty big problem is here on the bolt. So to start, let me be really careful here to hold in the, so first off, one issue I did note in my previous review, the 1,000 round review, is that my retaining pin for the firing pin is getting really, really loose, and that's only become worse now. If I even shake this a little bit too much, it's going to just fall out on its own. So I'm just going to hold that in. Obviously, it stays in when I'm actually firing, since that side is up against the bolt carrier group, or against the bolt carrier itself. But looking at the rest of it, the firing pin protrusion looks fine. You can kind of see that right there. The bolt face itself is seeing a lot of wear. If you notice, I didn't actually touch on this yet. I'm holding another bolt in my hand just for comparison. This is my Wasser 10s bolt, which has several thousand more rounds on it. I've had that gun forever. And you can see this is what it should look like. And you can see this PSA AK bolt, this one right here, looks way worse than the Wasser, even though it has thousands less rounds on it. And there you can see it better now that I'm holding it in a much more similar orientation. Of course, one's an AKM. This is a more so AK-74 pattern on the 5.56 PSA AK-101. So you'll see some differences there, but you know, just look at the wear. There is just, that's a lot. The bolt carrier itself is also exhibiting some abnormal wear. I usually don't see this enormous line of wear up here. Usually on a high round count AK, you will start to see some wear up here. That's totally normal, but yeah, this ring is pretty odd, and it's just been pretty much polished to a mirror finish as it hammers into whatever it's hitting on the inside of the gun there. The piston itself, remember I did say I did just clean this, but it's pretty much completely black since this isn't chromed. It just pretty much just permanently blackens, which doesn't hurt anything. It's just, yeah, worth pointing out. I also have this weird square of wear. There you go. You can see it in the lighting right there. I don't know what in the world this is coming in from, but I have an oddly high amount of wear in that one spot. That's not really causing an issue. It's not an important surface that needs to, you know, hold headspace or something, but it's odd that it's popping up. And let me just carefully rotate this around to not lose that retaining pin, just so you can see the lug wear and just in general how the bolt is looking. There is a fair bit of lug wear. So you are looking at the bore scope right now. This is currently all the way pushed into the chamber, so you can just vaguely make out that bolt head that I'm pushing up against. So we're just going to go, everything will be reversed because I'll be pulling out of the barrel. So you can see the chamber itself, just go back to it really quick. I don't see any problems here. The start of the rifling looks fine as well, but we're going to get to the part I'm particularly concerned about here in just a sec. You can see some copper fouling is starting to show up, which is totally normal. Doesn't cause an accuracy problem in and of itself, and not to go too far off on a side tangent, but usually if you try to clean all the copper fouling, it actually will make the accuracy worse for reasons I won't bother to, you know, won't go off on that tangent right now. Just completely derail the video. But here we can start to see what I wanted to touch on. This is not too visible here, but basically there's almost like a chattering mark you can see, and it might not be easy to see now, but you're going to see it a lot more as we go further down the bore here. Here, also note, a lot more here. So what I think this is, just to posit my own theory first, because I'm not totally sure what's causing it. Maybe this was always here. Maybe it's being caused by the, maybe the lands are of varying depths. Maybe it wasn't precisely manufactured. It almost looks like maybe this was just done too quickly at PSA. And so what I'm thinking is that this could be a mark from the bullet as it's making uneven contact with the inside of the bore. But like I said, there's a few things that could be going on there. Either way, it's definitely causing a problem. Here, note, there is some more. What I do also think is interesting is, so notice there's those weird, I'll call them chattering marks. Like I said, I'm not totally sure if that's exactly what it is. But notice we now have several inches, and we're about 6-ish inches down the bore now. And you can see there's a little bit of just, that looks good. But then there's more of that chattering mark. And then, actually, this one's particularly pronounced. You can really see that. And that uneven copper fouling, which is cause for concern. And also leads me more to think that it's probably something with how it's hitting the bullet, or how the bullet is traveling down the bore, I should say. But then again, we have a lot of area that's just totally smooth, good, exactly what you'd want to see. But then more chattering. Much heavier copper fouling here. Again, that's not really cause for concern. You'll see it more, especially because this is a nitrided bore compared to chrome. It just doesn't show up as much on those, but either way, I haven't seen it ever cause an issue. I'm just going to readjust my grip here. Pardon the wiggliness there for a moment. More chattering, and then more smooth. More chattering, and more smooth. So this is the crown of the muzzle. I do want to go back in for just a sec, just to show the gas port. Here's the gas port. Really looks fine. Don't really see any problems with that. There is essentially no erosion thus far, so that part looks good at least. And then of course, just going back here, back to the crown, which is something of course you can just look at externally. We don't need a bore scope for that, but yeah, just to show you that that is the whole bore. So I think that there is some cause for concern here, certainly. Very abnormal wear on the inside of this barrel. Beyond that, the rifle is still shooting fine. I haven't had any other weird malfunctions or anything like that. Just big concern is how it is wearing thus far. So that is the PSA AK-101 at 2,000 rounds. I hope that this was interesting and informative if you have been looking at PSA AKs or, you know, the AK-101 in specific. And yeah, we're getting up there in a round count for sure. I'm going to keep going with this, of course. I don't have any reason to stop doing it, though I have a few other plans for the channel in the mid to near future. So I'm probably going to be putting this a bit more on the back burner, but it's not going to be going away completely. Just understand the 3,000 round review is probably going to be quite a bit of a ways out, but expect it later this year, several months from now. If there was anything I didn't cover well enough, you still have questions on anything, by all means, do feel free to leave those in the comments below and I'll do my best to get back to you. Other comments, of course, always welcome, but especially actual questions, I'll always do my best to actually respond. Thanks for watching and hope to see you all in the next one. See you then.